I'm Elizabeth Jowers, and just by way of introduction, I've been serving with Loving Houston as a summer intern for the past 2 months. And I've been working alongside our coordinator in Houston ISD. And something that we're seeing in Houston ISD is that there are these needs in the public schools. But we're also seeing sometimes that the churches that are around the schools either aren't engaging with the schools, and sometimes with some church leaders that I've spoken with, they have attributed that to not having the resources in order to be able to serve the schools. They would like to. It's not a question of interest, but it's a question of resources. And so I'm just curious, either in your experience as a pastor, or just your experience living in Houston for a long time, what might be the role of a pastor be in lifting up other leaders, whether they are in kind of official capacity or if they're just leaders in the community?
When we talk about church-school partnerships, I think we're discovering that there's another layer of partnership that might also need to take place. In other words, churches that have resources may need to find a way to effectively partner with churches that don't have resources so that together they can then minister to a school in that neighborhood. And I actually think that there's a lot of loneliness among pastors. A lot of pastoral ministry feels like Lone Ranger sort of stuff. I know we have our denominational connections, and we have sometimes there are community organizations, pastoral alliances, and things like that. But in my experience, an awful lot of pastors really just are not very well connected. In fact, when I came to Houston, I thought there must be some big organization of pastors. They meet all the time. They're the power brokers in the city, and they just don't want me to know about them. So I just started calling up pastors and saying, hey, could we go to lunch? Can I get a cup of coffee with you? Pastors I didn't even know, and I was surprised to discover, really early on that there aren't that many organizations or clusters of people who are working together. I think actually what Loving Houston is doing has the potential of linking churches together, because their churches are trying to do a similar kind of ministry and being encouragers of one another around a common cause might actually break down some of the walls that divide churches against each other.
That's true. I think that something that I've seen is that these churches that are around some of our priority schools in Houston ISD have one of the most important resources of all, which is close ties in the community. They know where people are. They already have those links. People identify that church as a place, a well, if you will, to use your earlier imagery. And so that's something that a church that's not in that area doesn't have. So it makes a lot of sense to encourage that kind of partnership as well. And certainly seeing that kind of connection has been transformative. When a pastor says, I really like this organization. I'd love to bring a friend to the next leader luncheon, or I'd love to have you speak to this network that I am connected with. That's true. I think that's one of the hidden gems of Loving Houston.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I really like what you said about the fact that the community churches really do have a lot to offer. And the huge part of that is relationships. And I feel like a lot of churches, especially smaller churches, often feel like they don't have much to offer in terms of maybe material resources. But oftentimes that's not what's needed in our schools. Most of the time, schools are asking for mentors, someone who can come for 30 minutes a week to talk with a kid, or someone to encourage the teachers. And so it does seem like any church of any size, whether you're a small church or a large church, can do something to help. And so being able to change that perspective that it's any church, any individual who can help, regardless of what kind of socioeconomic background or anything like that. And I love the idea of the building the networks of the churches. And you're right, I think we are able to do that with church school partnerships because it is churches working together. And some of the most amazing partnerships that we've seen is not just one church with one school, but multiple churches linking arms and hands to care for the children and the parents and the teachers in a particular school. So that's been really neat as well to see. And I do want to give a shout out for some of the organizations that we've been a part of in the Houston area as well. I think Houston Church Planting Network has amazing resources for pastors and for churches, and they really do encourage pastors. I think Pastors Serve also is another organization that does that well. But yeah, for sure, our leader luncheons are a place where pastors and leaders, outreach leaders, youth group leaders can come together and feel like they're not alone in their ministry and what they're doing. So great points. Thanks for bringing that up, Elizabeth. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for taking your time out today to share with us. Thank you again for your leadership over the past 5-6 years for Loving Houston, as well as the work that you've done just in the greater Houston area in general.
Thank you.